as you guys know, the minor attracted people over at Nintendo keep doing things to ruin Christmas for families all across America. It's gonna be a bad Christmas. When we're looking at the price of the Nintendo Switch, when we're looking at the fact that Nintendo has updated their end-user license agreement, otherwise known as the EULA, to make it so that they now have the access to brick your console, making it unusable if you are suspected of piracy. Yes, they can literally make your console unusable if you pirate something. We're of course talking about the Switch 2. Well, it's gotten worse.
Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and a lot of wives' boyfriends are out there picking up that Nintendo Switch 2, ladies and gentlemen.
That's true.
You know, it's coming out next week. It's about to be one of the biggest console drops of all time, alright? So, you know, I don't take it lightly. I do talk about video games. So, you know, Switch 2 is a pretty big deal. Now,
Ooh, the sales projections aren't looking good. Uh-oh. Wait, what? 15 million in 10 months? Oh, it'd still be among the best launches ever. Oh, okay.
excited for the Switch 2? No, not really, okay? Honestly, ever since I got the old Steam Deck, playing things like Battlefront 2 in the palm of my hands and not port begging is an entirely different life, okay? But yeah, actually, I would get the Switch 2 probably when Metroid Prime 4 comes out, when it comes out. We don't even have a release date at this point.
And I think he's right when he says that there are certain titles that would carry the Switch 2 and make it worth buying. Now, we would need a banger, though, and I don't know if they have it in them. That's the problem. Seeing Nintendo recently, it's just been flop after flop. And $80 a pop? Nah, I'm good off that. You can keep it.
You know, honestly, I was actually excited to pick one up just to get Cyberpunk 2077 because, you know what? The actual developers for that said the physical copy is the whole game. None of that game keycard stuff. But you know what? We have plenty of time to talk about it. So anyways, I saw that the Switch 2 was out at Target. People were showcasing these things in a cage. Now, before somebody wonders, but Muta, that would be a pretty nice way to rob? No. You don't want to rob these, okay? A, the take isn't that great. B, I'm pretty sure Target has the most insane levels of bloodhounds ready to track you down for anything like this. But
unless George Floyd died, then I think you could get away with it, so
that you were dumb enough to steal a Nintendo Switch 2 before it actually released next week, and you went home, and you powered it up. Well, Nintendo would be out there hunting you legally to take down any video that exists. Now, I have a frame of a Switch 2 box right here. I can't play the video more because the video gets taken down. Obviously, as you can imagine, Nintendo's legal ninjas are waiting
Wait, so you can't even show the console?
I don't get that. You legally to take down any video that exists. Now I have a frame of a Switch 2 box right here. I can't play the video more because the video gets taken down. Obviously, as you can imagine, Nintendo's legal ninjas are waiting to strike when the iron's hot. But we're not going to let them here, okay? We're not going to let it happen. Anyways, though, ladies and gentlemen, what happened with this release? Well, there was a lot of information that came out that apparently it needs an update. So the guy on YouTube, or one of the channels on YouTube that posted their early Switch 2, was asked more video.
Oh, this guy's a dead guy. Oh, this dude's about to lose his life. Nintendo locked the Switch 2. It needs to update to function, so I'm just waiting for June 5th to unlock it. Bro, why would you ever say this? You're dead. You're going to lose your life because of this. Nintendo will literally find you and then make an example out of you. This is his last words. But a brave man he certainly is.
Oh, please give us more video of this console. And the guy goes, Nintendo locked the Switch 2. It needs update to function. So I'm waiting for June 5th to unlock it. Now, this immediately freaked out the internet a little bit. What are you telling me? Nintendo is selling a $500 brickaroonie? You know, I almost...
Wait, is it out or is it not out? I'm literally so lost. Wait, I didn't even see. Can you buy it right now? Oh, June 5th. Available on the 5th. So we got 3 days until D-Day. Yeah, I'm confused. I'm like, wait, no, he did get it early. Okay, so guys, I'm gonna tell you something. I'm a little concerned. I'm concerned to a degree that I probably shouldn't be as someone who's not purchasing it. Because when you look at the standards and who's setting them, it's the people in charge and the people with money. And Nintendo happens to be both of those. And And when you look at what we're seeing right now, low-key, I'm squeezing my chair and I'm like, oh, please make it stop. I'm anxious.
Thought that too. I was like, whoa, hold on a second. We're getting sold a brick of a system.
Wait, so it's literally a brick.
And now this is going to sound like me defending Nintendo, but
So in order to use the system, you have to update it. You can't even use it as a base console. You can't even use the hardware unless you have the update.
to be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, I kind of want to not like get mad at this because this is already a battle that I feel is not worth putting Nintendo as a lightning rod for. I'm not saying any of this is okay, but we as a society have been dealing with this for decades now, and people like me have been screaming into the fucking void, and everyone has always said we're crazy, right? You know, think about it like this. When you go purchase a brand new iPhone, what is the first thing that you gotta do? You probably have to connect to iCloud to
correct.
activate the phone, and then you get to sign into your Apple account and actually...
So, yeah, it's not just Nintendo doing this when a lot of the other products you have need to be like connected to the internet first, and you can't really use the hardware until you access it. With Nintendo, it's different, though, and I'll let him explain why.
Set it up during its initial phase. You can't purchase an iPhone, from my understanding, and use it completely offline, okay? You need to, at least at one point, have this device ring back to Apple servers. Now, people will say, well, it's a phone, Muda. Of course you're going to have internet connection at any given moment, right? Or at least satellite or some...
The argument is that the hardware that you paid for should be accessible without the external need for an internet connection, yeah.
Form of connection. And that's true. But again, remember, this means that...
The difference is that the software allows Nintendo to brick your console. Well, you said it, brother.
This is a several $1,000, well, a couple $1,000 device that is actually unusable if you don't have any form of connection, right? It's effectively e-waste without having... If it does not have the ability to connect to Apple servers, even if other components work or down the road you can connect, this is a useless piece of technology, okay? And yes, after a while, a lot of devices become retro. You think this iPhone is an iPhone? This is an iPhone 3GS, okay? I doubt it could even bother connecting to Apple servers. Not that I remember my passcode, not that I even remember how to reset it. It is a different beast at this point, okay? But you get the idea. For game consoles, on the other hand, you know, you could go to a store, pick up a PlayStation 5. You could literally not connect it to the internet. You could fire it up. You could set up your accounts, your local PlayStation account on your PC.
Yeah, and I think that the key difference, right, is that the intent for the gaming device is to game. The intent for the phone is to be connected. A phone is, you have to use it in order to connect with people. That's the purpose of the product. The purpose of the game product is for you to just sit on your couch and play games, right? And the necessity for each is way different. The necessity for connection is way different. Like the argument that a phone coming as a brick is bad is way less strong than the argument that a console coming as a brick is bad. It's way different because if you just don't have internet, if your internet goes out, and then let's just say you forget to pay the internet bill for your month, right? But you have the PlayStation 5, you just can't use the PlayStation 5 now. That's stupid. That's insane. That's ridiculous, right? Whereas the phone, well, if you didn't pay your phone bill, you know, you kind of have to because you're using another server, right? It's not like it's different.
PS5. And then if you had an actual physical copy of a video game that did not require an internet connection to play, you could then access your video games all without touching the internet. That is something that you can do with that device. And I know this because you can set up a PlayStation 5, get the PS4 copy of Jedi Survivor, and play this fucking game without having any internet access. You know, it's crazy. This game ships on 2 exact discs, and compared to the PS5 physical release, which requires you to download a patch off the internet, they actually released this game with a full release. Like, you could actually play this from start to finish, 60 frames per second on a PS5. Sure, it doesn't look as shiny. Sure, it doesn't have the ray tracing, and I'm guaranteeing that the assets have been downgraded. In fact, they have. But generally speaking, you know, if you're somebody playing a video game, you're not going to notice these things on every single individual. You'd have to have, like, the exact remembrance of what the PS5 looked like.
It's more about the principle, though. These are things that you can look past if the thing functions properly, if it does what it's supposed to do. If you purchase a game and you need something external to boot it up, people are generally against that. That's that's just the truth, right? Like, part of what makes going to GameStop fun for me now, and it's not something I do very often, but when I go specifically to get games for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. Games that the disc goes in the console and I play. And then that's what my week or few weeks or month looks like, is that game. I get a game that I'm going to play for a while, just on my couch for, and maybe an hour to 3 hours every single day, and that's it. That's the end of it. I don't like the idea of being able to get a system that I hate the you'll own nothing and be happy shit. I really fucking do. I hate feeling like there is a big brother, like an overlord, constantly able to fuck with my game and that I don't actually own it, right? I hate that so much. I really do.
To really complain. But the point
and most people hate that.
Is the whole game is on the disc, okay? No game key cards, no nothing. It's a dying breed, unfortunately, as games start to enter this more modern era. Now, again, with this rambling that I'm doing, even the Switch 1 is similar in that regard, okay? You could pick this up at a store, you could fire it up, you could set up your Switch account locally, put in a game card if it didn't require download, and just play it from start to finish. Now, if you bought an Xbox One, back in the day, Don Matrick basically told us Xbox Ones require this 24-hour internet connection, which obviously, as gamers back then, we thought was fucking absurd.
No,
now, again, remember, okay, this was back in the day, and it got normalized, right? Xbox backed away their 24-hour, requirement, but they still made it so that that entire console, since the Xbox One, requires you to download a system update when the game when you pick it up, no matter what Xbox, okay? No matter how late into the lifespan. We're not talking about launch day Xboxes. We're talking about an Xbox literally you can pick up last week.
So your options are either become a PC gamer like how most of us have turned out to be, and that has its own flaws, and I'll get into that, or just play on the 360 or the PS3. I play on the PS3. I do. Maybe it's weird, and I understand if you have reservations or judgments about that. I understand that it's not the most normal thing, but I'm also a PC gamer, right? And so I think that they both serve different purposes, but I enjoy them both separately, and I don't enjoy this. I really don't. I think being a PC gamer, I think one of the problems, ironically, that I have with being a PC gamer is that I get sidetracked so easily. It's hard for me to get immersed. Very hard for me to get immersed while I'm playing on my PC because I want to do 3 things at once. I want to have Spotify open, I want to have someone's live stream open, I want to have Discord open, and I want to have my game. That needs to go away. You need to just be on your couch with the controller looking at the TV, enjoying everything about the game. Oh, and also live service games are just brain rot. I'm grinding CS2, that's my new game, and I just I have no will to live after a few matches. It literally is so depleting. And it's also not fulfilling. An old game is like a story. It's not a loop. An old game you can complete start to finish, and it feels like you actually did something. It feels like you enriched yourself with a plot. You got immersed in a universe. Whereas a live service loop just feels like a never-ending hamster wheel.
First thing you do is it connects to the internet and downloads a system update. Then you have to connect to Microsoft services and log into their actual accounts.
There has to be a backdoor for this, by the way.
And that is a completely online tethered box. When you pick up an Xbox, as opposed to even a Switch 2, it's a fucking brick. Same with Windows PCs. Unless you have an internet connection and a Microsoft account at the ready, you are effectively beholden to the internet to activate and run a piece of hardware you bought off of the store. And again, I don't want to rage at the Switch 2 for this because we've normalized this. And that doesn't make it okay. But again, the anger that I'm seeing, the outrage that I'm seeing on the Switch 2 feels like it's outrage that is designed primarily to just get mad at Nintendo, maybe get a couple clicks out of it, and not really educate people on how bad things really are. If you feel that this is a problem, it's worth maybe not buying the product, okay?
That's
maybe
correct.
Voting with your wallet. But
well, I'm honestly, part of the content is educational. I think that there is maybe a lot of rage against Nintendo content, and I've definitely done some of that. I won't lie to you. Some of the content is yeah, this game just looks like shit, whatever. But I do think that when I talk about this, I do try to warn against the practices against Nintendo, the practices of Nintendo, and how they are essentially trying to normalize shit that is completely unacceptable. And I've told you, don't buy the Switch. That's That's my education. I'm trying to inform you as to what's happening and what the decision you should make based on this information. And I think maybe I come across as crass. Maybe I'm like, oh, Nintendo fans who are defending this are gay and they're sucking the dick of the CEO of Nintendo and they're getting on their feet and kissing the toes, whatever. Maybe I'm crass. Maybe it's not serious in the way that I do it. My delivery could use some work. But at the end of the day, I think that the result is still the same. And I think people get what they need to get out of the videos. I think they learn.
Generally speaking.
Here's the thing, PC has all the things that you can get your hand on digitally. Having a controller and intention is way harder to break from. Yeah, kind of.
Speaking, I think because it's about to break records, probably doesn't even matter all that much. Anyways, the Switch 2 seems to require that update to function. So I wanted to look a little bit into this and see how true this actually was. And it turns out the Switch 2, from what I read, does not actually fucking require that you need the update. In fact, the Switch 2 seems to work pretty fine out of the box playing Switch 2 games.
Oh.
Now, if you want to see verified proof for yourself, there's a lot of videos floating around on the internet, and obviously I don't want to get my channel given a strike, but there's a lot of brave soldiers out there on YouTube.
Russian. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the Russians have bigger fish to fry right now. Are you as scary as Nintendo might be as a company? I'd say, you know, being in an ongoing war, in a bloody battle with another neighboring country where people are getting fucking nuked might be a little bit more pertinent.
One account that has a goatee profile picture actually did walk...
Yeah, what the fuck? This is just an anus. This is a butthole. This is spreading open a butthole.
people through the Nintendo Switch 2 setup and menu walkthrough. Of course, as you can see, I've already seen a chunk of this video. It was uploaded 1 hour ago. I'm pretty sure if I hit that fat refresh button, it's ooh, one of them already got taken down. Wait, they re-uploaded the video.
As we speak. Oh, man.
Okay, so yeah, you can see
Awkward.
that Nintendo ninjas are currently actively fighting the war zone here.
They got him,
of course,
bro.
I've seen the footage myself. Obviously, I'm not going to show it to you, but yes, the console can be set up without that internet connection. Now,
Yeah, but is that intentional?
they did not show a cartridge going into the system to prove, if Switch 2 games work out of the box, but I imagine
But also,
if the system
there's an update, right? Isn't there an update on the 5th?
is able to set up without a firmware update required, I'm sure it can handle a cartridge from the Switch 2. And I'm also entirely certain that given Nintendo's track history, the cartridges also contain the required firmware update that would be necessary to run them in the first place. So even if you were completely offline, it does seem as though you do
This
have
footage
that
is
offline
riveting.
support, right?
I love this.
Just personally speaking. But yeah, obviously, like most modern things, having an internet connection opens you up to so much more functionality. But yeah, that being said, this is about all I can show you.
So for anybody that has no idea why the Switch 1 needs an update, well, it's because in order to run the Switch 1 games on the Switch 2, it needs to run them underneath a software emulator, okay? Meaning that it's not a full-ass emulator, but it's something where in order to run the Switch 1 games on a Switch 2, there needs to be some translation of instructions on the fly. Now, overall, according to Nintendo, as of April 24, 2025, with Nintendo games, almost every single fucking Nintendo game works with no issues found during basic testing. The only red in this situation is actually Nintendo's Labo Toy-Con. And the only reason it can't run is not because the software can't be emulated, it's just because you can't fit the Nintendo Switch into those cardboard VR goggles that Labo shipped with. The only other things that don't work are a lot of streaming services like Crunchyroll and Hulu. Now, when it comes to the general video games, 15,000 something games, there's maybe
Mostly
some
no
that aren't
issues.
compatible, some with issues during startup, and of course, the vast majority of them are...
I think most of the software is probably going to be fine. I don't think the main issue is going to be software compatibility, especially considering that most of it's digital. I don't think that's going to be an issue.
very playable. There might be some issues.
I mean, especially if you're paying $80 fucking, they've made sure that it works. They don't want you returning it.
but it's very playable throughout. And again, that's a good thing. It means Nintendo has
Sure,
focused
I
on
guess.
preserving backwards compatibility. But why do you need an update to run Switch 1 stuff? It's probably because, if I had to hazard a guess, the actual release of that emulator pretty much took it until release day for Nintendo to get right. Which is why, when the day comes of the Nintendo Switch 2's release, they're probably going to want you to update the system so you can download the emulator, have it installed to the system package, have it installed to the system's firmware, and so then you can plug in your Switch 1 cartridges and play them underneath Nintendo's software emulator, right?
Right.
That's literally the only reason why this actually makes some real sense. And it's one of the things that I wanted to do with demystifying it. I don't think it's evil what Nintendo is doing. I think it's actually quite good. Instead of making you download every single individual game like the Xbox backwards compatibility program, it does feel good that Nintendo is at least letting you use your actual cartridges alongside a software emulator to backwards compatibilize your video games. I think that's a good thing to do. I think ultimately that's a real big W.
I don't really understand what the difference is, to be honest with you. I mean, I suppose it's just faster, but I mean, I just feel like if you're playing Switch games on the Switch 2, well, maybe I'm not, I don't know, what of all the things, maybe I'm just finding ways to not give them credit, but whether or not you have to, is he just saying that you don't have to download the game now? And I just feel like, okay, whether or not you have to download the game is like, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of inconsequential, in my opinion. Like, because it's like, well, if you have the cartridge for the Switch game and it plays, okay, well, it plays whether you download it or you don't download it.
From Nintendo's end. And I'm sure it took them all the way to the release point
I must be missing something.
of the Switch. Remember, these things don't get made in a vacuum. Most likely, these Switches got manufactured months ago, if anything, weeks ago. And generally speaking, when you manufacture something a while ago, its software stack, its software versions, its firmware versions are probably generally a lot older than what you might expect, which is why when the day comes, there's a big patch for the hardware so that all the software enhancements that have been done up until release day can actually make it through. That's that's literally the one reason that
I'm curious if they're going to do what they did with the Wii U, where they basically make you download the further system updates. I assume they will, but I wonder how fast people will find ways to circumvent this, where they're going to find a way to preserve the current operating system version for their Switch. If they want their Switch to be in like what the current version forever, I wonder how long it'll take hackers to figure out how to keep it in that state forever, because they're going to try to force updates, right? I wonder how long it's going to be before hackers figure out how to not get their updates forced.
Makes sense. Now, people have started to point out like things where Nintendo is immediately stopping to give a shit about like previous systems. Like, for instance, one of the things that came out like today was like the feature update for their emulators, right? So for instance, on the Switch 2, there is a feature called Rewind, where for these N64 games, if you make mistakes, right? For instance, you can rewind gameplay, meaning that if you make that mistake, you can basically go back a few frames and basically retry your luck again. Now, this is something that is in some Switch games, like Super Nintendo stuff. I actually do it for like Link to the Past, because sometimes you make a mistake, you go back, it just makes the game easier. It just makes it more simpler. And
yeah, I mean, it just sounds like coddling, right?
And I absolutely enjoy it. The reason why this doesn't...
You didn't know this? Like I said, I'm not interested in the Nintendo products. I'm against them.
...show up on the Switch is if you've ever emulated anything, you'd realize that rewinding is not something that is super cheap to do, okay? Rewinding takes system resources. And by the way, for a Nintendo Switch that is already at its life's end, okay, the fact that this is emulating Nintendo 64 and doing a pretty good job at it is nice. It's cool. Remember, this is a 2014 era piece of like hardware.
Correct.
Emulating some of these games and running some of the bigger titles. You know, we're at a point where features on the system level have to get turned down just for certain games to run, okay? So
well, I mean, it's just emulator stuff. I don't know. Well, I mean, hopefully that update that drops on the first, or I'm sorry, like when it first drops is going to be like a decent update. I don't know. But I am really praying on Nintendo's downfall. I really am. I am, bro. With every L that Nintendo takes, I consider that a W.